motor. To receivership of the federal courts in 1933. But the story of the Lakeshore Electric is a long and interesting one, and it played a highly important part in the economy of northern Ohio. In many ways, the passing of the Lakeshore Electric and all the other interurban lines from the state not only marked the end of an era, but might well have been the end of public transportation of this type forever. I don't intend, of course, to make this a complete history of the Lakeshore Electric. For those of you who are truly interested in this particular interurban line, which was the jewel of all Ohio interurban lines, I could recommend... Oh, yeah, I heard it.
They put anything.
Well, I put it on stop. Christensen, and that is spelled, the last name, Christiansen. And the other book, of course, is a later edition that is titled New Lakeshore Electric by the same author. No one, I am sure, has put in more research into the Lakeshore Electric than this man, and has anyone done a better job. He has made complete rosters of the Lakeshore Electric power, as complete as any that I know of in existence, and both of these books will be among some of those that I will be using for reference sources and describing the various cars in the following photographs. The Lakeshore Electric, of course, was put together by the Everett Moore Syndicate, and that was Henry A. Everett and Edward W. Moore, and they ultimately owned a great deal of the entire traction system in the state of Ohio. The portion of the Lakeshore Electric that was to extend westward from Norwalk, that would be the Toledo-Fremont-Norwalk Railway. And the distance was about 61.5 miles from Toledo to Monroeville. And of course it was to run via Genoa, Woodville, Clyde, Bellevue, and to Monroeville. But the Everett Moore Syndicate put together a number of companies that were building, including the Toledo-Fremont-Norwalk Railway. And when these companies were all incorporated, of course, they became the Lakeshore Electric. This was done about 1901. They moved in and they consolidated these various lines into the Lakeshore Electric system. They absorbed the Lorraine and Cleveland, the Sandusky Mile and Norwalk, Interurban, and the Toledo-Fremont and Norwalk, and of course all these together made up part of what was to be the Lakeshore Electric system. And on the 24th of September of 1901, Lakeshore Electric was officially born. This became really its birth date. And it was to be a part of the economy of northern Ohio for the next 45 years. If we include those years that it was both from the time it was formed with the building of the line out of Sandusky to Norwalk. The Lakeshore Electric, of course, is to make its last run at 12:41 a.m. on the Sunday morning, May 15th, 1938. And the last car to leave there was number 163. That was the end of the area of the Lakeshore Electric. The Lakeshore Electric, of course, ultimately arranged joint trackage rights with various other railways, electric railways, so it was possible, of course, to ride from Cleveland to Detroit without changing cars, and they ran joint cars with the various Ohio lines so that you didn't have to change cars. The same thing happened with the Fremont and Fostoria Fremont Railway, which was half owned by the Lakeshore Electric. And this, of course, was really the gateway to Lima, and they connected there with the cars that were owned by the Northern Ohio Traction Company. There was such a great network of traction cars that even as late as about 1936 or 35, you could travel all the way from, for instance, from Fremont to St. Louis on interurban cars. You would have to change, of course, but you could still travel all the way from Fremont to St. Louis on interurbans. And the greatest traction center, perhaps, in the United States was located at Indianapolis, and also one of the largest, to my knowledge, at least one of the largest trolley buildings in the United States is also located there, in the largest trolley depot. But we'll get on to the photographs here in just a moment, and we'll go through the various cars, when they were purchased, what type of brake equipment they had, with some explanation as to what it is, to the type of controllers, to the number of traction motors, and to a number of other things. But it might be of some interest to note that the Lakeshore Electric set an early speed record on February 22nd, 1902, and they did this with a Barney and Smith car number 18. And they thought that the weight of the car with what it had aboard, a human cargo incidentally, that it weighed around 36 tons. And they covered the 30 and 4/10 miles between the city limits of Toledo and Fremont in 44 minutes and 30 seconds. And siding number 20 to Hessville, it's 4,8400 miles of straight and level track, and Power Route 20 runs over what was then the Lakeshore Electric. And they shot across this stretch in particularly good time. It took them 4 minutes and 10 seconds, and this means a speed of 69 miles per hour, although for that time, of course, this was very high speed for an interurban line. The next attempt that the Lakeshore Electric made at a speed try, of course, it was again with car number 18, a Barney and Smith car. And this happened early in the morning. In fact, it was a chartered run of Eagles, and who were returning from the convention in Cleveland to Toledo. It was on November 3rd, 1902. And they started at 3 a.m. in Cleveland, and at 6:22 a.m. They were getting off the car in downtown Toledo. Now, that was 120 miles from Cleveland. They were met by a number of newspaper reporters who informed them that they had set something of a record. That took, figured out, about 3 hours and 22 minutes to cover that 120 miles, and that was faster than the Lakeshore and Michigan Southern was covering the 110 miles between the two cities. It was taking them 3 hours and 30 minutes. So the interurban car actually could and did many times outperform the steam railroads. And it's possible that had the steam railroads been willing to interchange freight, the interurban area might have lasted much, much longer, because there were many places where their freight business is such that it would have sustained the interurban companies. And of course, there are a few companies that still exist today that originally started as interurban lines. One of the first that comes to mind, of course, is the Illinois Terminal Railroad. But they had done a lot of fast running at various times on the Lakeshore Electric. In fact, the Jewett cars that were the steel cars that they ordered in 1917, 1918 were the fastest of all. They had Series 1 motors, and starting, I believe, with car 170, they had 4 140 horsepower traction motors under them. And at this time, 4 140 horsepower traction motors is almost unheard of in an interurban car.